Hello and welcome to the Passion Driven Pioneers interview series. I'm your host, John Channon, and today I'm joined by Jim Schaefer, who is the co-owner of MSP Mortgage. Jim, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, John.
Yeah, would you like to just kick us off with a brief background as to who you are, what you do, and then the business that you're in?
Sure, absolutely. Um, Again, thanks for having me today, John. My background, I've been in the mortgage industry now for about 24 years. Started a company back in 2001, grew that into 5 states. We had about 100 employees. And then the mortgage industry collapsed back in 2008. So went through some trials and tribulations there, worked for a couple different companies. And after the industry decided that we were going to see historic lows in interest rates during 2019 to 2021, I knew that coming out of that, there was going to be a drastic drop in mortgage origination activity. Rates go up, people stay in their homes, they don't end up refinancing, and there isn't a lot of movement. So we needed to be proactive instead of reactive like we were back in 2008. And that's how MSP Mortgage was born. We put it together focusing specifically on the investor community and renovation financing. So those are our strong suits. And I would say that probably 70% of the business that we do nationwide falls into those two categories.
Okay, so you mentioned that you guys are focused on investment community, and then what is renovation financing, maybe just for the audience?
Sure. So there's been some buzzwords that you may have heard in the real estate community or the real estate industry. Fix and flip might be one. Um, there's also think of the any of the television shows, the home improvement shows that you're seeing on TV these days. So in a half hour, somebody's buying a house, they are remodeling it, and then they're getting it back on the market and selling it for a profit. Sometimes you see a little bit of behind the scenes activity on some of the challenges that they face. And a lot of times it goes smoothly. Well, I mean, we're here to uncover some of the truths there about that and work with these investors, offer financing for them, not only for their acquisition of the property, but also that remodeling fund that they're going to need to do those improvements. So that's in a nutshell what our fix and flip or our renovation financing looks like.
Would you mind maybe just sharing? So you saw an opportunity in the market, s- got back into the mortgage industry, but with a different type of focus. Just share with us how the two organizations are a little bit different there.
Sure. So back back in the early 2000s, our main focus was the the buyer for their own primary residence, or some of the folks, that were, maybe coming back to us and saying, "Hey, I'm interested in buying a cabin or a second home or a lake place or something like that." So we were helping those individuals as well. Of course, the investment community and the investor community has always been there. There have always been people that have been interested in real estate investment. So sure, we dabbled in that a little bit, but our primary focus back then were, the first time home buyers, the move up buyers, things like that. Um, and as I mentioned, in 2008, when the market collapsed, there was a lot of foreclosure activity, and there were a lot of folks that didn't have the ability to get financing. Um, if we fast forward back to this latest refinance boom that happened in 2021, and then rates went from 2.5% up to 7.5. I think they actually did hit 8% at one point in time. Um, So folks like you and I might remember back in the 90s when rates were in the double digits for mortgages. So, thank goodness that we didn't have to see those numbers again. But in knowing that and knowing that prices were continuing to go up, the interest rates were up, um, there wasn't a lot of activity for that first-time home buyer group or for the move-up buyer because they're now happy and satisfied with their 2.5 or 3.5% interest rate, and they're not going anywhere because they knew if they wanted to buy the same house, they were going to be paying twice the monthly mortgage payment simply because the interest rate was that much higher. So people were, and still are to this day, they're staying in their homes. They're accessing the equity. Maybe they're doing some improvements there. But our focus, because we knew that was going to happen, our focus has been on that investor community. So we've surrounded ourselves with um, the individuals and the programs that are going to allow us to offer that up to that investor community and poise them for success.
So second time through, different target market, right? Um, Talk to us about what were some of the similarities between starting up the two businesses, and then what were some of the things maybe that you needed to do differently with respect to this business?
Um, well, I mean, starting a business from scratch, I mean, it requires there's there's things that are income producing and there's things that are business creation, and the two ne'er shall meet. Um, So, I mean, I still had to put food on the table. I still needed to earn a paycheck. So I still had to, I mean, even while creating the first company and creating this company, I still needed a paycheck. So I was, while we were doing that, I was still originating mortgages. I still had to do something so that I had revenue coming in. So 9 to 5, I'm doing income producing activities. 5 to midnight, I'm doing business development. So if you're looking to start a new business, plan on working 2 jobs, one of which won't pay you anything. Um, the the some of the similarities that I think would hold true in both of my experiences as well as anybody else's are going to be, and some of those things are very exciting and very fun. Um, the name of the company, you have to start with something. Your logo, that kind of design work. So there's a lot of, depending on if you're doing this by yourself or if you're doing it with a partner or a colleague or a spouse. I mean, there has to be some collaboration. There's, countless times, hours spent in meetings and, doing those types of development opportunities and ideas. And then understanding, what business are you trying to operate and what regulations you have to follow? What are the licensing requirements? All of those types of things. So in addition to understanding and being an expert in mortgage, I also had to become an expert in business development. And, there's a lot of resources that are out there for that too. We'll get to that later.
Yeah. So Jim, what are some of the strategies you guys are using in this space to remain innovative and kind of continue to be out there in front?
I would say the most important thing that somebody can do is research. You have to keep educating yourself and you have to keep learning. Because if there's a new product or a new program that I can bring to the market and bring to my investors that will help them grow their business, they'll help them save a dollar or put them into a better position where they can leverage financing in a better way, I need to know what those things are before my competition does. So I'm always looking at what's out there. Who else is in the market? What are they offering? And is that something that is valuable enough for me to understand, absorb, become an expert, subject matter expert on, and then leverage and offer up to my sphere?
Okay, good. You mentioned also really a strong, solid focus at the beginning around business development. Um, Talk to us a little bit about what types of activities you were engaged in from a business development perspective to really kind of make sure that you had that balance of continuing to grow this startup business that you had.
The mortgage industry is unique in that you can go about it in a couple of different ways if you're starting a company. You can either look at it from a standpoint of, I want to be a sole originator, originate my own transactions, and build a support staff around me to assist with the administrative tasks, the processing, paperwork, and things of that nature. Or we can take a different route and look at bringing on additional loan officers that will bring in additional revenue for the organization, help with the growth, and then start looking at things like, do we want to expand outside of our current region, our current state, and what target markets might make sense for, in this instance, the mortgage company? Do we want to look at Florida as an example? There's a lot of snowbirds from Minnesota that own real estate in Florida. So MSP Mortgage decided that the second state we were going to get licensed in was Florida. Um, Now, again, it's also good to have boots on the ground in multiple locations. So from that standpoint, now we're looking at, okay, who do we know in a different market geographically that we can advise on what our company and our product and profile looks like, and say, does this make sense and does this fit your business model to the point where it's a better opportunity than what you currently have? We
Okay.
all know people don't like change,
Yeah.
right? If any good business owner has read the book Who Moved My Cheese. So we have to understand, in sales, all sales is change, right? If you're in one position and you want to get to a new position or buy a new product, that's a change. So from a salesperson's perspective, how do you instill that opportunity as a good one?
Well, that's good, Jim. So, Jim, let's take a look at maybe shifting a little bit. And would you offer us a glimpse into your future plans and goals that you have for this business?
You want to see behind the curtain. Okay.
Sure.
All right. Um, Absolutely. So I mentioned before that education is an important part of what I do on a daily basis. I need to continue to be up to speed on products, programs, regulations in my industry. Um, because as this industry is ever evolving and changing, being on the forefront of anything that's new, innovative, um, those are things that are going to assist with our stabilization of the organization and the growth going forward. So we are now looking at um, some partnerships with real estate organizations locally and nationally. Um, we are looking at implementing AI into our daily regimen to alleviate some of the administrative tasks, some of the initial communication with either leads and or clients. And we believe that in doing that, that will streamline our process and again, put us on the forefront of what's coming as far as AI goes. We know that that's here to stay, and we know that we need to um, we need to be utilizing that technology and embracing that sooner than later.
Oh, that's great. Well, I appreciate you sharing that with us. So, Jim, knowing that this show is going to be targeted towards people who are just starting up a business or maybe in their first few years of business, do you have any final thoughts or words of advice you'd like to share with our audience today?
Become a subject matter expert on what you are passionate about. If there's an opportunity to generate revenue from that, you're home free. And the other thing that I would say is continue to grow, continue to expand your sphere, and read the book, Who, Not How. Most people, when they're looking at a challenge or a new problem that's in front of them, they're going to ask themselves the question, how do I solve this? And they have to get out of that mindset. What they need to do is ask themselves, who can help me solve that question or solve that problem? You surround yourself with people that can do what it is that needs to be done so that you can focus to work on your business instead of in your business.
I appreciate you sharing that, Jim. I'd not heard of that book before, so that's a first here on for me and also on the show. So listen, thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks for having me, John. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it was great meeting you and learning about this second venture into the mortgage industry. And to everyone watching, I look forward to seeing you in our next episode.